Why I never ever start within Figma or Adobe XD but always in Elementor as a website WordPress creator. Hello, I'm your host Casino from Casino.com. I'm the digital alchemist, and you've probably already seen Reno's video from Living with Pixels about why you should never start a web design in Elementor, but instead use a tool like Adobe XD, Figma, or Sketch. And first of all, I must say that I love Reno's channel and work, and actually agree with him on the topic for most scenarios. But then, why do I say the opposite in this video? Well, you'll need to watch this video to find out. So the first question to ask is, who are you selling to? A, high budget, so from 10K to 100K plus, or B, small to medium budget, 1K to 9K. And that is very subjective, of course, because your numbers may vary depending on where you live and a lot of other variables, but I'm trying to keep things simple here. And question number 2 is, how do you price your projects? A, per hour, or B, per project? And I wrote with a cap because in my case, I always put a cap of hours per project in order not to be taken advantage of. Now, some of the big dogs use value pricing, but most of us don't. So once again, I'm trying to keep things simple here. Now, if you've answered A to both questions, then I totally agree with Living with Pixels and other channels that recommend you use Figma, Adobe XD, or Sketch, and follow the traditional workflow used by all professional agencies throughout the world. Now, if you've answered B to any of these questions, then that's where I'm going to disagree with the traditional workflow, and I'm going to prove it to you. But first, let's review some of the arguments, or shall we call them reasonings, commonly used to use tools like Figma. Okay, argument number 1 is that in Figma or Adobe XD, you can zoom out and you can have an overview, and it's easier to watch the web design, and it's true. If you zoom out, you can have, a better idea. But when I work straight in the browser, while not the same, I can still right-click, click on Inspect, then click on the responsive icon, and then I can edit the values. So let me put 1920 by 2000. Okay, and as you can see, we have more zoomed out view, and I can start scrolling, and it's way easier to see. Okay, argument or reasoning number 2 is that while in Figma or Adobe XD, you can have a side-to-side view of the desktop version and the mobile version. And while I agree that it's way easier here because you see it side to side, it takes little to no effort to do it in the browser. So let me show you. Once again, I'm going to use Inspect, Responsive, and as you can see here, I have the mobile version, and here in the other window, I have the desktop version. So while not as convenient, easily an easy fix in my opinion. Next, argument or reasoning number 3 is that you can have different versions side to side. So this could be V1 of the homepage and this could be V2. And while I agree it's convenient, it's also doable in the browser. So in my case, I always use web hosting with cPanel and Softaculous. So Softaculous usually comes with cPanel, and that makes it really convenient because with Softaculous, you can do a one-click clone. So usually I have my first website, so that's going to be first version. And then for the second version, I'm just going to click on one button, clone it. So all I have to change is, do I want the path to change? But for the rest, I'm just going to clone it. And then I have V2, I can start working on it. And once I've done that, it's actually easier. So here on the left-hand side, let me put it full screen. That's gonna be my V1. And then on the right-hand side, let me put it full screen. That's gonna be my V2. So it's super easy because all I have to do is communicate the links to my clients, and then they can see both. And that's super convenient because the demos being online and accessible from anywhere and set in stone, it's super great because unfortunately sometimes some clients may try to take advantage of you, or they've just purely forgotten about the things they validated. And having the demos online actually help in that perspective. Argument or reasoning number 4. In Adobe XD or Figma, you can start with inspiration right within. So you can import a design, could be a free one, could be just an image, and you can start right from there in the same canvas. And that's true, that's really great. But the thing is, for inspiration anyway, I do a mood board. So in mood board, basically, I'm just going to copy and paste some screenshots, So this is an example. This is some of the screenshots that I liked, and that's what I envisioned for this project. And then I can show it to my client if I want. But to be honest, at the beginning of my career, I used to ask the client at each and every step for design decisions. And honestly, it was a nightmare because the truth is, people hire you as a web designer is because they don't really have a clue most of the time. They don't have a clue about design. So what I'm trying to do now, I'm not trying to force people, but I'm trying to connect with clients that really want to trust me, trust my subjective vision. That's why I hired a web designer in the first place. Whereas in the beginning, I would just ask them and then follow the direction. But because they had no clue about design, usually the end result wasn't that good. So like I said, nowadays, I feel much better, much more excited because I have much more freedom. And crafting a mood board like this can go really fast, can take you 10-15 minutes. Usually I'm gonna spend 1 hour, sometimes 2 hours. You know, when I'm not really inspired, I need to look for more visual clues, but usually in 1 hour I can do this mood board. It's just copying and pasting images. And basically I'm not trying to reproduce perfectly the design, because I'm not trying to steal this design, but I'm just trying to get an idea of what I want to do for a specific type of brand or client or project. And in this case, I'm using a tool called Affinity Designer. You pay it once, but it's just copying and pasting. You can do that in Illustrator or even in free tools like the GIMP or whatever, but it goes really fast. Now, argument number 5 is all about how fast it is to start with a tool like Figma. And that's true. If you want to add an image, you just drag an image and there you go. You want to add a header, it's pretty straightforward. In just a few seconds, a few minutes, you can start. Now, where it gets complicated, it's in the following steps. Because once you've done the design, then you need to reproduce that design in Elementor. So while it was really fast at the beginning, it's gonna get way slower when you need to get into the production phase. Now, one argument that I don't often hear about is the fact that tools like Figma, Adobe XD, or Sketch are a dream come true for any web designer, especially those that started with Photoshop and Dreamweaver and that kind of stuff. I mean, those tools are totally amazing, but in my opinion, they're just not suited for WordPress professional work. Now, let me tell you why I always start with Elementor when I start a new WordPress project. So reasoning number 1 in favor of Elementor is that it's going to be way faster. So I just did my little research, even though I have my own experience and I've worked on Figma projects and Adobe XD, but so I just typed a question here in Google and basically, how long does it take to design a website in Figma? Now the first answer says it would take approximately 4 to 5 weeks. Now I never spent 4 to 5 weeks to create a design, to be honest. It was much shorter than that, but I just want to have an idea of what people are talking about. And when you go through the comments, actually in this core page, we have this comment here and it said, with programs like Figma, you can take 20 times longer to do the work. If your agency bills by the hour, is great because it helps your team generate tons of unnecessary but seemingly important meetings. It allows the team and the client to have lots of feelings and generally cause trouble between everyone on the team. This is also great because then you can ignore how hard design is and you can complain instead. Now, of course, this is ironic and probably someone that has been too long working for an agency with too many meetings. And I can kind of relate because a long time ago, I remember participating in a pre-meeting for a future meeting that was going to talk about the color of a button. And I'm not kidding you. And of course, you cannot base a study on just one random comment on the internet. I get that, but it was just to give you an idea because it's kind of representative of what people think in the industry, not all the time, but often. And that's why, in my opinion, the traditional workflow is more suited for more complex projects or projects that are not going to use WordPress in the end. They're going to use other technologies, just straight PHP, or it could be Ruby on Rails, could be React, could be a ton of other technologies. But for small to medium regular WordPress websites, in my opinion, it's way faster to work straight within Elementor, and I'm going to prove it to you at the end of this video. Next, if I know I'm going to build the end product with WordPress and a theme builder like Elementor, then what's the point for me to start building everything in Figma, iterate, and at the end of the day, I'm going to start everything from scratch and work within Elementor. And I think it really comes down to seeing a tool like Elementor as an all-in-one tool that you can use for wireframing, prototyping, and for production. Now, it takes a good workflow, and as you may know, I release my own product, and I'm not trying to sell you everything because even though there's a buy now button, I actually removed this tool from public sales just because I was tired of people abusing the refund policy. and I may put it back on sale one of these days with a licensing system and a much stricter money back guarantee policy, but I digress. My point is that you can use your own system. So basically Wirementor is just a collection of elements, blocks, and layouts pre-styled, all in blue. So there's just one color. You can tell the client, okay, this is just to validate the structure, nothing about the design. But you could just use the pre-styled library of Elementor blocks and just put it all in black and white. You could do this. The idea is that if you have a simple way of crafting prototypes, it's way easier. Plus, you can test it right away. You can work on the responsive version, and that's going to be way faster in the long run. And that takes me to my next argument or reasoning, and it's the fact that it's a better workflow for both the client and yourself. So let me give you a glimpse of my workflow. So first of all, I'm going to create what I call a wireframe prototype. So it's wireframes, but it's actually a WordPress Elementor website, so the client can test it right in the browser on the desktop, tablet, and mobile. And basically, as I've just explained, I got my preset styles of blocks, layouts, and elements, and I'm just copy and paste some blocks, and I can go really fast to build this type of demo. And I'll give you the numbers later in this video when we do the breakdown and when I prove my point. Now, when I deliver the wireframe prototype, I've already been paid 80% of the total amount because I usually ask for 50% upfront and then 30% when I deliver the link to the prototype demo. And I only move to the design phase once I've been paid when I deliver the prototype demo. So at this stage, all I ask the client is to tell me if they validate the structure. Do they agree with the structure, with the pages? Is it okay with them, with the navigation? They can test everything. And once they validate the structure by email, so there's a proof, then we don't go back. If they want to go back and move the structure, they're gonna have to pay more. But once they validate, usually it's set in stone and we don't go back. And now I can move on to the design phase. So in the design phase, I'm just going to use the mood board and the general styling of the client, of the brand of the client, and I'm going to start changing things. Now in Elementor Pro, you have site settings. So I'm sorry, some of the elements here are in French, but don't worry, it's the same interface. And basically the idea is that I have my style guide that I created. You can create the same, and then I can just, with one click, I'm going to change the color, and then all the colors are going to change in one go. Now here it's really ugly, but it's just to show you that it's really easy to change. Let me change some more, and let me change the accent color here. Let me put some pink, and as you can see, it changes on screen, and I do that for the fonts and the colors. And then I start working on the design. So at this stage, all I have to do is go from the prototype to actually starting implementing the design. So I'm going to change the fonts, change the images, and basically base myself on the branding of the client and the mood board to make it look good. At each phase, so the prototype and the design phase, the client has one round of revisions that is capped. It depends on the project, but usually it's between 2 and 4 hours depending on the size of the project. And once all is good, I publish the website once I've been paid the remaining 20%. And that's why I always get paid. I love this workflow. Next argument or reasoning in favor of working in Elementor is that what you see is what you get. Because when you work here in Figma or Adobe XD, okay, it looks good, it looks great. You can also have the mobile version. But then once you actually see the website on the mobile, at the end, it might look different, and some of the clients, they don't understand that. Whereas when you work directly with your theme builder as an all-in-one tool, well, what you see is what you get. No surprise. The client is going to open the website, see it on his mobile, and when they get delivered the final demo, basically they've been used to it all the way. What you see is what you get. Okay, and last, and it's probably the main reason why I always start with Elementor when I know I'm going to build the final website with WordPress. Well, it's simply the fact that it's way more profitable, and let me prove it to you. So if you know you're going to build this WordPress website for a smaller budget, and smaller budget is all relative, but we talked about this at the beginning of this video, or you're going to price this per project, then let's imagine the following scenario. So let's say you are approached by a company that builds houses and they have a budget of $5,000 for their website. And for this price, you need to build 7 pages and 8 screens. So home, our company, our concept, portfolio, testimonials, contact, and get a quote. Now, because there is a portfolio, you need to build or create an 8th screen for the single project detail. So with the traditional method, here would be the breakdown of this project. So project management, and I'm talking about the emails, the meetings, video calls, more meetings. We're talking about 2 days of 14 hours. We're talking about 7 really working hours a day. And I'm being really nice here because trust me, you can go way longer than this. So 2 days for project management, and that includes also the revisions and the back and forth communication. Wireframing and prototyping for the desktop, tablet, and the mobile. So that's the DT and M on the screen. 2 days of 14 hours. Once again, it could be much longer, it could be shorter also. But once again, I'm trying to keep things simple here. Next, the design phase. So once again, you need to design each and every of the 8 screen for desktop, tablet, and mobile. And you need inspiration. You know, the design phase is not just like, you know, you're gonna snap and oh, I get the design inspiration. So it can take some time. And yeah, this seems realistic to me. Your mileage may vary once again. So next, production. And if we spend 3 days for the design phase, for all the responsive elements, then it's a good rule of thumb that we spend more time for the production. So here I've put 6 days. You need to test everything responsively. It could be less, but it could also be more, especially if you're doing pixel perfect design and the client really wants everything to be exactly as they saw in Figma, then you could spend more time. But hey, let's keep it at 6 days. So the total amount for this project will be 13 days, so 91 hours. And if the website costs $5,000, you divide 5,000 by 91 hours, so you're being paid $55 per hour. For some, that's a lot. For some, that's really nothing. Okay, next, let's take a look at the theme builder workflow. So first of all, we got project management. So it's 1 day, 7 hours. And once again, that's the communication, the back and forth, and the rounds of revision, but there is much less to do, hence why it's only 1 day. Next, we have the wireframing and the prototyping of the desktop, tablet, and mobile version. And no, you're not dreaming, I've put 2 hours. I've already shown you the tool that I'm using, that I built, but you could just use the Elementor blocks that come with Elementor, and you could pretty much achieve something really similar, even if it was a bit more, but it's still way less than what we did in the traditional method. And once again, I'm being nice here because yesterday I built a similar demo in 1 hour. No, you're not dreaming. Next, we got the design phase, so desktop, tablet, and mobile. And here I've put 2 days because once again, I'm using the theme builder as an all-in-one tool. So at this stage, I'm using it as a design tool. So basically my creative ideas, instead of doing it in Figma or Photoshop or Adobe XD or whatever, I'm doing it within the theme builder. So 2 days, 14 hours. And the beauty of it is that the production time is 0, nada, nothing, because it's already done because I've worked within the theme builder. So this brings us to a grand total of 23 hours for this project. And if you got paid $5,000, we divided by 23 hours, which means we've been paid $217 per hour for the same project. So to recap, with the traditional workflow, for the same $5,000 project, we would have made $55 per hour, whereas with the theme builder workflow, we would have made $217 per hour. Now, to give you some perspective, if we still went to do the traditional workflow, but instead of getting paid $55 per hour, we wanted to be paid $217 per hour, just like for the theme builder workflow, here is the breakdown. It would be 90 hours by $217. So the total cost of the project would be $19,747. In other words, 20K. Now, I would love to be paid 20K for each small WordPress website that I create, but the reality of the market is that there are not many businesses that can pay that amount. And I'm talking about small businesses. Of course, if you live, I don't know, you live in New York City or Los Angeles, and you got big clients, that's not going to be an issue. It might not even be expensive for them. But if you live in a city or in a place where people are going to spend 5K max, 9K for a website, then if you get these type of prices, you're never going to find any clients. Now, I'm not saying you should do the race to the bottom, but there's a difference between being paid, I don't know, $200 or $300 for a website and being paid 20K, especially when it's a simple WordPress website. Plus, if you can sell a 5K website for 23 hours of work, I'll let you do the math and imagine how many websites you could sell in a month. So while I agree with the videos that talk about the traditional workflow, because let's face it, it's the best of the best if you can start in Figma and then, hand it over to a developer, and that's going to be great. But realistically, because of the budgets and the fact that there's a lot of competition within the WordPress industry, more realistically, I prefer the theme builder approach. So what about you? Are you using the traditional method or the theme builder method? And please tell me why. And don't forget, we're all friends here, so don't take offense and just give me your arguments in a nice way with a smile. Only nice vibes allowed. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up as it really helps growing the channel. And if you want more web design goodness, make sure you subscribe and smash the notification bell so that you don't miss anything. So I'll see you in the next one, and until then, take care and stay safe. Cut!